Hey, this is John Bokenkamp. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
I always wanted to hunt for bounty. Welcome to the award-winning Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and like deep fried butter, I am unhealthy, and yet irresistible. I don't know how true that is. And also, we are back in black. So thanks for joining us once again as we discuss number 30 on the Blacklist, Smokey Putnam, written by John Eisendrath and John Bokenkamp, and directed by Bill Rowe. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com.
Well, last week we asked you to predict what the first thing was that we would see as the season opened, and over half of you got it right, or half of you cheated and watched it on YouTube before it actually aired this evening.
Was it on YouTube?
It was on YouTube. You could watch the first, I think it was 5 minutes or so, the car chase scene. You could see ahead of time.
How would you want to watch just 5 minutes? Then I'd just be mad that then I'd have to go, torrent it or something.
Exactly.
So I need the whole episode, man. Feed me, Seymour.
Those that did guess it correctly were Jennifer, Doug, Suzanne, Paula, Carissa, Anita, Kathy, Donna, Tim, Priscilla, Somaya, and George, Tiffany, Nate, Grace, Larissa, and Stephanie. Woo! Aaron will take it from there.
And it was the city skyline?
The city skyline was the correct answer.
Yeah. Well, here are some of the other guesses. So mine, where it was Jack's eye, and look, that wasn't true?
It was not true. It was an option, but it wasn't true.
That's really a bummer. All right. Well, here are some of the other guesses. A car. Wrestler in the shower. I think that's more somebody's wishful thinking. Wrestler kicking a gnome. Yes. Red sipping coffee, eyeing a car. A suitcase of bones. Red at the DMV, getting an Uber certification. That was mine. I'm going to own up to that. An eyeball. Amir and Samar hitting an alarm clock. Oh, like together?
Together.
Wow. I wasn't too far off on that one. Wrestler hitting an alarm clock. Liz and Tom, Red's hat, and a cat video.
Why not? Redhead cats. Everybody loves cat videos.
Oh, that won't get me in the mood for some Blacklist to show a cat video. I'm not a cat fan. Yeah, I said it. All right.
So for those of you that are new here to the podcast in Season 5, welcome, first of all. And secondly, what we do at the top of the show is we do a profiling question that kind of sets the stage from something that happened last week, so we get people talking as we wait for each week's episode, because waiting every week sucks. Why can't it just be binge like Netflix? But we have to wait each week, so this gets the community talking over in our Facebook group. You can go check that out over there at the Blacklist GSM, facebook.com/groups/the Blacklist GSM. And then we talk a little bit about the episode. We feature some comments from you guys and play some of Red's fun stories. So at the top of the show, we do the profiling questions. So what is the question we're all going to be talking about this week, Aaron?
It's going to be, how do you think Tom got put in that position? What? Where he's a clairvoyant. Just kidding. Not that part. But how do you think he ended up on that floor looking like dire? Things are a little dire for old Tommy boy.
He's been dire a few times in this series so far, so this is nothing new for him.
Exactly. And everybody, I keep hearing people say, he was killed. Man, until I see a bullet in the head, he ain't dead.
I saw a bullet in the head last season and still wasn't dead.
See? Bullets, even in the... I need cremation is really where I'm at. They say no body, no crime. I need cremation. I need to show the body going into the cremator.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
I just want to point out before we move on that because this is the premiere, I am drinking some Academy Award winning red wine in celebration. So
I am as well. I am as well. We should tell people about the award. We haven't told anybody about it since we've been back.
Do you want to do it now or do you want to do it at the end?
We'll save it for the end. How's that sound?
That sounds good. So the people that don't care don't have to hear about it.
Fabulous. All right. Well, then before all the free booze is gone, thanks to Red, let's go ahead and get to this week's case profile.
I'll be a lot more fun by the end, too, because I'm drinking a lot of red wine. All right. So Smokey Putnam. We start this episode with Red stealing a car. More on that a little bit later. And staying at the most friendly Terrace Vista Motor Lodge I've ever seen in my life. I really want to hang out at this place. They have a cool social hour, and this seems like a lot of fun.
It seems like that. What do we call it? The activity director, just that you would see at a typical resort. I never would have expected that at a motor lodge, but this is the motor lodge I would come visit if I needed one.
I'm convinced Red is working as the social director. I mean,
he very well could be.
He is involved and he loves it. I've never seen somebody that happy at a place like a motor lodge. I've been to several motor lodges in my life, and nobody's ever that happy. Nobody.
By the time it's over, they're all going to be working for him.
They're all smiling, man. And that guy, what was the guy that was just like jacked? He just randomly jacked over there in the hallway.
Well, yeah, there was free booze, so you'd be jacked too, I suppose.
Those two don't make any sense. What does one have to do with the other?
Booze, jack, they go together.
Oh, wow, that was like a dad joke from another level. Okay, so I really...
It's early.
Like another plane, man.
It's only the first episode of 22.
It's like a fringe dad joke. All right, I really want to hang out at the social L. I already said that, so I'm not going to say it again. You can cut that out. We find out Red needs cash. He's strapped. So he decides to pull a little De Niro and get the big score by taking a midnight run for Maurice as a bounty hunter chasing down a fugitive. Turns out...
I like Maurice. I like Maurice. I thought he was a cool cat.
Yeah, he was a cool cat. He really didn't get much screen time, but he seemed like a good guy. But didn't he tip him off? Didn't they say at one point that it had to be Maurice that tipped him off?
Absolutely.
Is he still a cool cat?
Actually, I think so. I think Maurice actually can fund criminals for the next 22 episodes, potentially.
Oh, Lord. He's just going bounty to bounty. Dog shows up at random points. That would be great. I would watch that.
Stealing my business, Red.
Well, it turns out Smokey Putnam is the guy that we're looking for in this episode. And he robbed, we didn't say this. For new listeners, we do the crux of the story, and then we do all the characters individually. We do it different from a lot of podcasts. We don't go scene by scene. In case you've never listened, there you go. So it turns out Smokey Putnam robbed a bunch of skinheads that run a major drug cartel that launders through a circus.
Right, the Davis and Fox Entertainment Company. How on the nose could that have joke been?
Why do you think all races have so many tattoos? I mean, I feel like we're stereotyping at this point.
They just want to express their art form. It's a way to showcase what they actually stand for because they have some extra skin on the top of their head to draw more tattoos, I guess, because always hair would cover it up.
I want to challenge TV writers everywhere. Go out there and make some skinheads that are in like 3-piece suits. Because those are the ones that are getting through the doors. You know what I mean? Let's shake it up.
Those would look like observers then from Fringe.
Okay, we can't have too much Fringe because nobody watched that show. All right. Just kidding. I've got 100 episodes. I guess it was all right. Most of the episode revolves around a lot of banter and a road trip. Would you say that this was more of a standalone episode than what we're accustomed to? Do you feel like this episode... Well, first off, I guess, simple thoughts. What do you think of the premiere? Did it kick off season 5 in great fashion for you?
Yeah, I mean, where we left things last season was pretty dire. It was pretty dark and dismal and kind of a downer in a lot of ways. So to come back, especially in a new time slot where you might have new viewership as well, I think this was a great lighthearted way to get people to say, oh, this chasing around, criminal catching kind of stuff. I kind of like this show, It almost feels like it's a brand new show in a lot of ways. So I think for the purpose of what the premiere needed to do to hook in people in this new time slot, I think it did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed the episode. I laughed a few times. I applauded once or twice. And then it got to the end, and it did exactly what you need, which is the whole, here's the episode contained. I can literally say I don't have to watch an episode again, or I can keep on watching because it's all in this one thing. But it gives you that little 2-second nugget that makes you go, ooh, that was interesting. I'm going to come back next week.
The hook.
The hook.
The hook.
What an interesting hook it was.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that shortly, but it was an interesting hook. I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it because I knew that this season's supposed to be, or at least these first few episodes. I don't know if that'll change as the season goes on, but initially it's going to be a little lighter. We've seen that in interviews a lot, talking about a lighter tone. Well, that can mean a lot of things. It can mean, oh, look, there's a shark, and then it's just nothing but cheese. Or it can be really well done in line with the characters, and it also keeps the story moving. So it's a show we love, but just changed up a little bit. And it's actually based on actual character growth or character extension, which is what I think happened here.
I think it had the fun of season 3 A, as we called it. It has that Liz and Red working together again, kind of pseudo on the run because they're trying to keep it on the down low from the FBI, but they're actually out in the open versus being on the run on the lam specifically. But it has that tone and that feel from Season 3, and everybody loved Season 3A. So if we have that again, I think we're in good hands for quite a while.
I didn't have any complaints anyway. I love it. It felt like a reboot. I don't think it necessarily is, though, because there is a lot of long line plot lines that are there. There's a lot of seeds planted already. So I don't know if you could actually come into it blind. But thankfully, it's all on Netflix. You can go catch up right now. But I do think that if somebody were just flipping the channels, they could mostly keep up.
I think so.
That's important when you're trying to, because it's hard to grab new viewers in the 5th season of any show, especially something where you have a more serialized than others nature.
Yeah, but we got Law and Order after it now, so.
We do? I didn't watch what it was after it.
Yeah.
I turned the channel and watched it again, got ready for this podcast. That's what I did. So, all right. So, are you looking forward to where this season goes?
I have no idea where the season's going right now. All I got from this episode was that Tom's got the suitcase. For some reason, he's really apprehensive now to share that information with Liz because of the information that Liz shared with Tom. And so that sets up a very interesting dynamic. And then we get the weird flash forward, flash back, flash sideways scene. And what does that all mean? So I'm just interested to see, if anything from this season, what I love so far is that we literally had an episode where Red hired a money launderer and Red hired a logistics person. So I want to know, is the next episode going to be Red hires an accountant, and then Red hires a lawyer, and then Red hires a blah, blah, blah? So I'm excited to see who he hires next, to be quite honest.
I do think it's going to be kind of a rebuilding. In terms of the show, in terms of the character, it's very literal. Literal, metaphorical, it's all kinds of things. It's like the Darren Aronofsky version of the Blacklist.
Oh, please don't go there. Please don't go there.
Oh, I'm still having mother flashbacks. All right, well, let's get into the characters, man. This is where we get into a lot more detail of the story, but breaking it all down by the characters.
Yes, and we actually consider the music a character in this show. As a matter of fact, we interviewed Dave Porter last week. He's got a brand new album out called The Blacklist Original Score from the television show. So make sure you check that out on Amazon and on iTunes. Really, really great piece of work. So if you missed that interview, it was the one just before this, Blacklist Exposed number 90. So definitely check that out. So for the music this week, we open up with the Red in a car chase scene, and we hear New York Groove playing by Ace Frehley. Then as we get...
Great song.
Yeah, it was really, really well fit. It just was like the tone, the mood. It's something you could actually hear on the radio as he was driving along, I think. It was a perfect fit. Then we have get our first look at Reddington's base of operations. We hear The Boss by James Brown. And I'm like, he just owns the place. He walks around the motor lodge like he has built this thing from the ground up with his bare hands. So I just thought that was a very good choice there. Later on, then we had Red Eye's Edge of the World, transitioning us into the meat of the episode. Then we heard Run, Run, Run by Chin Chin. And then we closed up the shop with Paul Stone's version of Don't You Forget About Me.
That was an interesting one, because I've never heard the big band version of that. So
I know.
That was cool. I like that. And it made me feel good, because, well, I'm going to talk about it later, but it made me feel good. Seeing those two dancing, smiling, not just in a commercial. I mean, seeing it in the full scope of it, I loved it. That really made me go, oh, Blacklist is sweet. And then you find out it's not so much.
Yeah, because they might be father-daughter. They might just be having fun because they had a few drinks.
Let's knock that out of the water as we get into characters real quick. Where do you stand? Is he, for new people, is he her daddy?
I still say at the end of the last episode of season 4, there was too much ambiguity. We always said that the Blacklist is a lexical ambiguity in a lot of ways. Very much so in this episode. There was a lot of double meanings, and we'll get into some of those during Red's rhetoric. But I think at this point, I'm still of the camp that no, he is not Liz's father. Raymond Reddington might be Liz's father, but I am still holding fast on the imposter theory that this is not the Raymond Reddington from 30 years ago. This is a guy who literally has inserted himself into the equation, knowing all the players, and therefore he is not the father.
Whenever you say that, it's like Maury Povich is going to pop out. So do you think imposter or the mom theory? Because there's a couple theories here. Where are you at now?
Well,
Did you switch sides?
Well, no, the mother theory is a branch of the imposter theory, right? So first and foremost, it is an imposter. Secondly, then, of course, I'm still going to hold fast to, the mother theory could still hold. Because I watched Cape May a couple times over the summer just because it's such a great episode. And man, it's like the way it's shot and the things they say in that episode from season 3, it's hard to pass up the fact that it's shot a certain way for a reason. And just some
or
of the things,
is it?
or I'm just saying, I'm still holding fast. I definitely think that a 30-year-old DNA test, when you had a more recent test thrown in the garbage, I think that's there to make a point, to be quite honest.
Could be. You never know. Could be.
And Red just uses what he needs to use in order to further his empire. Because remember, he's a criminal, and criminals are notorious liars.
Okay, well, I think there's definitely a lot more to this story. There's no way there's not some kind of relationship there, because I'm sorry he wouldn't go through all that trouble to protect and save or keep her keep her handy, unless there was some kind of
connection.
I think emotional connection. Yeah, some sort of connection. So we'll find out. You know what I told Troy is going into this season, I'm not going to really jump all over the different theory camps until I see stuff in the show. So when that starts coming up, that's when we'll dive a little deeper into that, because it wasn't really relevant here. We haven't gotten any new information, so I just felt like it would just be rehashing a lot of old. So I just wanted to let everybody know, here's where we stand. Now we can move forward.
Yeah, and they're playing with the whole dad concept. I mean, this episode is, man, it would like hit you over the head with a hammer. It's like, it's like my dad's car, and it was like, oh, and then I like wanted to gamble because my dad was a gambler, and I couldn't get out from underneath his thumb. It was
nature versus nurture. Yeah,
the
whole thing.
It was pretty adamant. So I'm going to go along with the ride, assuming that Liz believes that Reddington is her father.
Well, of course she does.
And then just see where that plays out, because I think that has some very interesting stories and ways that Liz is going to examine her own person. How does she become a, upstanding FBI agent, holding up the law?
Hang on, Sparky. We're not a character. We're not had her yet.
I'm just saying that just from a story arc perspective. I just think that'll be an interesting story arc, is to see how she balances it out.
It will be. Let's get into characters. Let's do it. First up, Agnes. I'm not complaining, believe you me, but where the hell's this baby?
She was taking a nap. It was late. Sleeping in the other room.
Liz is gone on a road trip most of the time. Tom just got home. Where's this baby at?
Yeah, and Natty Katerina, or Natty Kate is gone. So yeah, who's watching the kid? Oz is shot. Dembe's out, looking for suitcases.
I'm just asking questions. I don't know if I should call DCFS. I am concerned. That's all. That's all.
Maybe she's with the cats from Red's flat. The cats are watching her.
And the dog? With that dog that disappeared? Oh, boy. All right, so Harry. Move on to Harry. He's got an impending problem. And he tells the team that Red is Liz's father. And now he's got a perception problem. What do you think about this dilemma that he has, where he basically has a task force that is set up completely on the idea that Red Reddington is the greatest criminal of the world, and he is now staying at the motor lodge?
I mean, I don't think where he stays is an issue. I think the ability to...
You know what? Yes, it does. It's hard to seem like a criminal mastermind when you hold up at the motor lodge. It really is.
Why not?
You drink it out of plastic cups. You're a frat boy. You're not a criminal mastermind.
No, it's brilliant, because that's where you get the most intelligence, because people are chatty Cathys at this place. They share stories from the road and whatever, and he finds all the information that he needs from his friends at the motor lodge because they're boozed up all the time. When you drink, you talk a lot. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's what's going on right now. Yeah. So answer my question.
What was your question?
Oh, you son of a bitch. All right. In terms of this, how do you think this is going to play out? What do you think about Harold's perception problem? He has a problem where he has a task force that's based on a man that has to be a criminal mastermind, and he is not currently leading a criminal empire. He is currently holed up at a motor lodge finding circus carnies to run his business now.
It's an interesting dilemma that he's in, because he's got internal affairs issues going on, but he's also got his own career to think about. And when you put it all together, I think that the challenge that we're going to have with the task force this year, and somewhat telling a decent, cohesive story, is, can they still turn in criminals at some point? Now, we had the skinhead operation in this episode. Cooper still got a bad guy at the end of the day that they were able to take off the street and turn in. So as long as a bad guy shows up every episode that Cooper can have, I don't think it's a problem, to be quite honest. Now, the bigger challenge is who in the organization, now that we have new heads of state running the FBI and the division, we know how corrupt they've been in the past when you look at the Decemberist and you look at Diane Fowler, etc. And then you have the issues going on internally, especially with Wrestler, where Cooper's like, I don't know, buddy. I'm assuming that he's on Wrestler's side, but it sure seemed like he was kind of fishing a little bit to see, can he actually trust Wrestler at the end of the day? I couldn't quite read Harry in this episode. He acted it very well. Harry Lennox did, but I couldn't read Cooper in that conversation to know if he's really trying to say, yeah, I understand that you did it and you're good, or I understand that you did it and I'm disappointed in you, but you're good, or you're really screwed, dude.
No, I didn't read any of that, but I think you naturally go for the more outlandish theory. I tend to read it as it is, typically, and I felt like you're in Wrestler's state of mind. Wrestler's paranoid because he knows he did something, so when his boss is inquiring about it, nothing about that felt like he was being accusatory. It felt very much like he's just asking him a question. Hey, I got to cover the base, man, because you did have a fallout with her. This is protocol. Did you know anything? Do you know anything? Blah, 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 blah. Seemed totally on the level to me. Because of Wrestler's state of mind, it seemed like more, because that was the picture it was being painted in. It was the frame of reference you were looking at it from. But I don't think it meant anything more than what it was, he said it was.
But even that ending when Wrestler's done with him at the end of the conversation, where he's like, oh, so we're in the clear. He's like, we're in the clear. His face didn't say, like, yeah, you're good, man. His face said, I know something more that I'm not telling you. It's just the way his face was. I think there's something more there that will have some interesting dynamic between him and Cooper. Cooper and Wrestler are going to have some
I didn't
talks.
see that. I didn't see that at all. But if you saw it, hey, who am I to call you a fibber?
Hey, if you saw it, then you can send us a tweet at the Blacklist GSM or in the Facebook group. Let us know how you interpreted Cooper's impressions of Wrestler during this episode.
Okay. Well, what do you think now that... well, actually, we're going to get to Wrestler here in a second, so hold that thought. But he does actually have a talk with Liz later and says he still has faith in her, that she's basically going to stay good, on the good side. You believe that? Or was there did his eyelash look a certain way?
No, I absolutely do, because even though she pulled the trigger and killed Tom Connolly at the end of season 2, when Cooper should have disavowed her basically completely, and then him treating her as like a father, she ends up quote unquote killing herself and then coming back to life. They never have the conversation, which I'm still upset about. Then they have this whole dynamic between the two of them. Cooper has done nothing.
3 seasons ago. When are you going to let it go?
Never.
Okay.
Because Cooper in this exact moment is still saying, like, I think you are the person I think you are, and I trust you to do the right thing, and I know you will do the right thing. So Cooper's never been on a side where he questions Liz's motives in the least. Even when she's done the most egregious things directly to him and affected his life.
But you think he's standing there accusing Wrestler?
I do.
Dudley Do-Right.
I don't think he's accusing him. I think he's like, hey, man, I understand we've all done bad things and I'm here to help, but I can't help you if you don't tell me the truth.
Why is Cooper a surfer? Hey, man, look, I don't think he speaks like that.
Maybe, when he's at home.
I don't think so. I would lean on the fact that I do think that maybe he should question Liz a little bit, because it sounded more like one of those conversations you have with your kids when I believe in you. I believe you're going to do the right thing. And secretly you're like, man, I really hope you do the right thing. I really do, because you're going to make me look stupid if you don't. That's what I got out of it. I felt more like the dad conversation you would have with your kids when you're afraid, or when you're hoping for the best, but, prepared for other things.
It's the same kind of conversation he had with Wrestler. Like,
no, I didn't get that at Wrestler at all.
I know the truth, but you're better off telling me the truth, because I already know, and if you keep lying, you're going to be in more trouble.
No, I think he had to ask, and he asked it exactly like he's supposed to. He's asking it like a legitimate question, and Wrestler answered it, and he's like, okay, had to check. That's it. Cool. That's what I got.
All right.
All right, well, that fight's over. Samar and Aram, we're going to bunch them together this week because really they didn't have a lot to do. But there is...
So we can finally call them Saram and not get their name wrong.
We can. We can call them Saram. If we have to be those people that ship. I don't really ship, so I'm just going to call them by their individual names because they're individuals, Troy.
I just kept pushing them together because I could never say Samar and Aram. It was just so difficult.
Say it really fast, and it is Saram.
It is.
So they're a little beyond Agent Navabi now. They're making out in elevators. Aerosmith's playing in the background. No, it's not, but it should have been. Why wasn't it? Really, missed opportunity. So I want to know.
There's already 5 songs in here. There's a budget, man. There's a budget.
There's never a wrong time for Steven Tyler. Do you think that this relationship is going to make it to the end of the season, or is it going to be one of those? There's going to be a few conflicts.
No. I'd like to see it last, but I'm sure there's going to be times where I'm sure there'll be the episode where either Navabi's in trouble or Aram's in trouble and one has to save the other. That episode, like, to me, just seems like it's natural that has to happen. Otherwise, what's the point of the relationship? Otherwise, oh yeah, they kissed, and yeah, we got to remind you that they're a relationship in this first episode. But otherwise, it just goes back to being what they normally are. Aram telling jokes and Samar being like, do your job, and so there has to be something with their relationship that causes either a rift or a closer bonding, something. Otherwise, the relationship is kind of like a back burner thing.
Negative. I don't agree with you. The one thing I do like in television is when they actually work super hard to make a relationship seem like a real relationship, where it's not a constant back and forth. Oh, here's a little drama. We got to break up. Oh, here's a little drama. We're going to get back together. Every once in a while, and I realize it's TV, so you're trying to create tension in every episode, and there's 22 episodes. I get that. But I am a big fan of find the relationship that seems the most genuine, which to me, not Liz and Tom, not Red and Liz, it's Samara and Aram, and make that one work. Make that one work. So we see some positivity in television. I think those two would be great. You don't need the conflict. They can be fun, just bantering. So I don't need it. And I'm hoping they go the distance, but they'll probably be broke up by midseason. I
just hope they're like describing blacklisters in the case of the week and whatever. Like she has a viewpoint and then he has a viewpoint, but it's like tied to like whatever they had at dinner last night.
Jeez. I don't want that. I think they're both too smart for that kind of idiocy.
Come on. It'd be fun.
No, I would prefer that they have different opinions and maybe they can have a disagreement on that. I'm okay with those kinds of things, like legitimate people spats. We have a difference of opinion, or political ideology, something along those lines. I'm fine with those things, but I don't really need more drama in that relationship. I think they had quite a bit for a couple of years. So maybe you can bring Annie back at some point. I don't know. Just to stroke the fire a little bit. Stoke the fire. I said that wrong.
Janet's back. Annie Heisey is the actress. Janet is the character.
Damn it, Janet. I messed that up. Sorry. You know what? She's not there, so it doesn't matter.
We're just clarifying facts. We're quabbling back and forth. We have different opinions on ideals and stuff.
This is what happens when you do podcasts late at night, people. This is what happens. I did like that he approached Cooper and asked for his permission or his blessing or whatever. I want to make sure it's not a work problem. And I'm just sitting here going, man, no one cares who you're dating, man. We're all proud of you. Good job.
He's trying to have this heart to heart, and Cooper's all like, dude, whatever. I got somebody coming to my office. It's fine. Go ahead. Have fun. Shoo.
High five. All right, let's move on to Smokey Putnam. This is the guy that Red and Liz find at Tammy Lynn's house. They find him hiding in the attic. The only way they get him out is because Red plays like a pistol whack-a-mole with the ceiling to get him down. I thought that was actually a pretty fun bit. And turns out he's responsible for running the greatest show on earth from city to city, and he's basically, like we said earlier, he's handling the money for a cartel and some skinheads. So skinheads and a cartel, or is the skinheads the cartel? I'm confused.
The skinheads were the cartel.
Okay. Whew, there's so many.
And he was scamming off the top from them in order to get out from underneath them because he was trying to pay back his gambling debt.
Because this is Midnight Run. This is a remake of Midnight Run. By the way, great movie. Everybody should see it. Did you ever see Midnight Run?
I did, long time ago.
Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin, yes. John Ashton.
I got your De Niro reference at the top of the show.
Just want to make sure I pointed that out. Movie guy. What am I supposed to do? So what'd you think about this Smokey Putnam popping in? You like this guy as a character? I thought that At first, I found him a little grating. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm like, where this feels a little too jokey.
Almost like you wanted to shoot a bullet in his leg.
Yeah, a little bit. It was a little too on the nose. And then as it went on, I'm like, you know what? Actually, he works. He really grew into his character. I think the way he played him was really sharp, and he grew on me before the end of the show. You?
And maybe it's because it was new season and everything, and we're just kind of rusty getting back into the swing of things. But I love the way he was trying to evade Liz in the episode and how he was playing those things off, because I thought for sure when he goes in the bathroom and he's doing his thing and the guy is standing in the mirror and it's like, ooh, let's focus on the guy in the mirror because it's going to be something that's important. The first thing that popped in my head was he's one of the skinheads and they're going to kidnap him from the bathroom, and that's how Liz loses him. Like, it never dawned on me that he was going to actually knock the guy out, take his clothes, and try to run away, because he's got Red and skinheads chasing him. So why would I'd try to keep one of them on my side so I had some backup. So I thought that was really cool how he did that. And then the calling in the bomb threat, I thought that was classic. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was good and wacky. I liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I really knew he was gonna escape in that bathroom. I mean, how did you not see that coming?
Well, he was gonna quote unquote escape, but I didn't realize he was gonna escape on his own. Because I'm thinking like a criminal. I'm like, if I got criminals chasing me, I want to keep some criminals with me so that I have some backup. So I thought it was going to be the skinhead kidnapping him in the bathroom because they already knew his location because of the phone call that happened earlier. So they tracked him down to the train station, and I thought that was a skinhead in the bathroom. But it turns out it's just some poor guy who wanted to go to D.C.
Some poor guy had to pee, and he ends up naked. There's the pants, Red. There's your pants. All right. Wrestler Mr. Sturgeon. I mean, I'm hoping that more people call him Mr. Sturgeon because I kind of like that. It's cool. Seedy. Laurel Hitchens has been found dead, as we said, and wrestler gets all Tommy Lee Jones about it, really ornery and freaking out. But it feels a little bit to me like he has a conscience problem. It isn't so much that he's worried he'll get caught. I think he really feels bad about what he did.
I mean, in a way. This is the part where I can't read wrestler right now. The character, when this happened last season, I was like, whoa, what just happened? And then the fact that he calls the cleaner, and I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from? And if he calls the cleaner, I don't know if he's feeling guilt or remorse necessarily. I think he's more, I don't want to lose my job over this. So he's a little more afraid, in my opinion. You disagree, I know, because that's what we do.
I think it really felt to me throughout the episode that he was feeling guilty, that he was feeling like he had a conscience problem. And that's what I would have expected, because I think some people that I talked to that watched the finale last year felt that because he did this, much in the same way that Liz has done it, it's going to lead him down a darker path. And he's going to start willingly, not being blackmailed, willingly doing other criminal things. Like, this is the beginning of a guy that ends up on somebody's payroll, right? Because he towed the line, now he stepped over it, now he's beyond it. You can't come back, right? One of those kind of things.
That's what we thought we were going to get.
No, that's not what I thought. That's what the people I've talked to have thought. I never thought that. What I thought was going to happen, based on his character, is from the previous years, is that he's going to be overwhelmed by it because he has a general dislike / hatred for criminals, for all criminals, for Red, for everybody. He really hates the people that are getting away with it. That just drives him nuts. And now he's one of them. And I think that's eating him alive. Now, I think that could lead him to do some more damage, like cross the line a little bit more, because he's overwhelmed and the guilt's killing him. I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on him. We've already seen that he has addiction problems, which means he doesn't manage crisis well. So there's a lot of those opportunities with that character, and that's what I think is going to happen with him. I don't think it's going to be he's running down this dark road. I think this Henry Prescott, who was blackmailing him because he rolled the dice on the guy, and because he was having his little meltdown, and he rolled the dice on him, and now he's in this fixer's pocket. I think he's going to do a couple things for him, and that's going to push him over that line because he's overwhelmed with the guilt of doing, because now he's Laurel Hitchens, and he hates himself for that.
It's true. It is.
That's
true.
where I think it's going.
But that's only because we saw what happened in this episode. I mean,
no, that's what I thought last year. That's what I thought was going to happen last year at the finale.
But then why would he call the cleaner? I mean, why wouldn't you just go to Cooper and say, Cooper, something bad just happened. It was a total accident. There's footage. You could see that I didn't mean to kill her. It was just a freak thing. We had a disagreement. Maybe he gets a slap on the wrist, a couple days off, and boom, he's back with his badge. He called the cleaner because he freaked out.
I'm trying to answer your question. You asked me a question, and then you answer it for me. I don't know what's going on here. This doesn't feel like a conversation. I feel like you're not loving me enough.
I never loved you. I just put up with you.
I think he called the cleaner because he panicked and he didn't want to get caught. Now it's weighing on him because he thought Laurel Hitchens was never going to be discovered. Out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? If it's not there, he doesn't have to live with it. She's now there, so he has to see it. He has to face what he did. And now he's being overwhelmed with it.
That makes sense.
That's how I would look at it. Not that I know anything about hiding bodies or anything. I'm just saying that's how I would look at it.
So we're saying that the cleaner, Mr. Prescott, set this all up purposefully to leave the body there to be found so that he could then in turn blackmail Wrestler.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think that. Actually, I don't think that. I think he did what he does, and he made it look like an accident. He found out later, after Wrestler went all Glenn Close on his ass, and was like, oh, I will not be ignored. And then he's like, I got to look into this a little bit more, because this guy knows a lot of information. That's when he found out who Wrestler really was. That's what I think.
Yeah, but he didn't leave Reverend Wright laying on the ground, make it look like an accident. He stuck her in a barrel to decompose in liquid. Why couldn't he have done that with this person? So I think he purposely did this so that he could frame Wrestler. Otherwise, he could have just gotten rid of the body altogether. She went on vacation. You never heard from her. I think he's got an ulterior motive.
The Fixer?
Yeah, the Fixer.
Is it the Fixer or the Cleaner? Because they only called him the Fixer. I'm like, what? We don't want to be confusing him with Mr. Kaplan? Is that what we're trying to do? We don't want to bring Kaplan in so quick into the season, so we'll just say, oh, let's call him something else. Call him Fixer.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
You never know. All right, now we move on to our final three characters. Now, Dembe's going to be in there somewhere, so hold tight. Liz, she says, you the words we've wanted to hear, I guess. You are my father, and Red's reaction...
We didn't want to hear them. You might have wanted to hear them, but yeah. I never wanted to hear them.
A lot of people wanted to hear them. But she says, you are my father, and Red's reaction, I want to say, from what I saw, is not an acknowledgement. It's a gulp. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, it looks like that's what you want to believe. Okay, I'll roll with it. Sure. Continue, Liz.
Yeah, it did not feel like an acknowledgement that, yeah, I'm your dad. But on the same token, he also had an Adam's apple. So, whatever. I don't know. It's kind of hard to prove your point. That's a hell of an ad for a plastic surgeon. Throwing in Adam's apples. I don't know if that's a doable thing or not, but
that's why you gulp, so they could draw attention to the Adam's apple. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it's possible. Is it not?
It is.
Is it not possible?
Anything's possible.
It's a very subtle, guys. Not the mom. Just a little tip of the fedora. Uh-huh. Well, the thing I loved about Liz in this episode, and Megan Boone in particular, is she is having an absolute blast. Like throughout the episode, you can see that Liz is having a great time hanging out with somebody she believes to be her father. And I am going to accept it until I see different information tipping me otherwise, like I said earlier.
Agree.
Which I do think Red's non-acknowledgement would be something else, would mean something else. But for the sake of this podcast, let's just say she believes that he's her dad, and she's having an absolute blast. What did you think about Liz's character here?
I think that this is the most fun Megan's probably had in a long time, too, with the character. She's been so dire, strapped down by Kirk, strapped down by Reddington, strapped down by Kaplan. I mean, we're back to, like I said, that season 3 Liz, where it's just put loose, fancy free. What can I do with this character now that I have this new information? And so for her to kind of look at it as a child in a lot of ways, new experiences that she can have in her life, and what could she learn from this man who she believes is her father? So, yeah, I think this is a Liz that I think a lot of people have been waiting to see what becomes of her and how she, quote unquote, flowers or grows up from her state of mind before, where it's like, I just want answers. I want the truth. Now to, I have the truth, so therefore I can get on with my life, and what's my life going to be about? And she has her whole future to like map out now with this kind of game plan, road plan that she's got.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, like a lot of fun. And this whole episode was a great time, and a lot of it was because of the dynamic between Spader and Boone, and Liz and Red. Typically, we only refer to them by their character names, but it's the premiere. What are you going to do? We got to get back into our old habits. It's been a few months. So how did you like the shootout? I really dug the shootout.
Yeah, Red, Duck, turn around. They were like calling each other's names, and then blam, blam, she takes the guy out with 2 shots. I was like, that was a Reddington move right there, if I had ever saw one.
And I will say, I am pretty... Okay, I will say Liz blinks a little bit when she shoots. Hey, it happens. It's hard to get that down. Spader doesn't blink. I think this guy's had practice.
He's also wearing shades most of the time, so you never can see if he blinks or not.
No, I pay attention. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing I do. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. But that shootout was great. And I loved seeing both of them and that dynamic, and kind of like having a father-daughter shootout. That was pretty fun.
It is a kind of dance, I suppose.
It definitely is a dance. And I don't think there's that one theory is pretty much put down now, right? The shipping thing?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. It feels like it is. I don't know. We like to keep all theories open. I just don't see a path for that to be plausible at this point.
With the information presented in the show.
Sure. Could flip on a dime anytime. Absolutely. So I love the line, "Don't speak to me like I'm a child." Because you're my dad.
It turns around and it's like, "Elizabeth, please go do this now."
Been there, felt like my own father-daughter moments. And then she has the chat with Smokey, which I thought was pretty intriguing. So I want to come to this question. Do you think she's actually helping him or bringing a fugitive to justice? Which end is it? And I know you can use the easy cop-out. Well, she's doing both, but I really feel like she's leaning one way, but I want to hear what you think first.
Well, I think she was struggling with the concept of what is the right thing to do. I mean, if I put this guy in jail, he's just going to end up dead. So is that the right thing for this particular person? Is it the better thing to do for the rest of the world? Like, what harm has he done? He stole some cash. You know, I know how, if we know how this works and he is going to go to prison and they got people on the inside, he will end up dead by tomorrow. So I think she's struggling with maybe there are some things where you can let the rules slide, because at the end of the day, there are some things that are worse than others in the scale of I did bad things. I forgot to brush my teeth this morning. Should I go to jail for that? No. But at the same time, it is a pretty bad thing because I had a meeting right away at the start of the morning.
Maybe. I think she wants to... She worked very, very hard to be a profiler, to get into the FBI, to get her badge back. I think she wants to continue to be an FBI agent, and that means that she has to follow the law. Throughout the episode, I saw several times where she was trying to make Red do the right thing, not break the law. And he was actually agreeing because it was in his best interest, let's be honest. And she's trying to keep her on his side. But I do really believe that she wants to walk Cooper's line. She wants to do the right thing. She wants to be a good agent, and she doesn't want to lean on where she could easily go. I mean, she wants to keep her inner demons in check and not follow Red's path. So she's going to do it by the book. I don't know if it's going to hold, but I think that's really what she wants to do. She wants to be good.
Which is why the bomb phone call and then the subsequent chase rundown after that really makes an interesting statement, because Liz never did have to make a choice. She chased him down, and there were already other security guards around there. So literally, her hands were taken out of the equation. They already picked him up. She said, hey, he called it a bomb threat, and they take it from there. So she never really had to make the decision of turning him in or not. So it still leaves that up in the air. Which was that kind of exchange that she had with Red when they're kind of looking at each other. Like, Red's like, see, I let you still do your job, but you didn't exactly do it the way you thought you were going to do it.
Yeah, well, I think it's more like throwing a bone. Like, hey, I'm going to do this thing for you because I'm going to need you in the future. Remember when I was doing all the good stuff? Now I need you to do something bad. But I don't think she's going to do it. I think she's actually trying to be herself. So we'll see how the season goes, but that's where I'm at right now. Do you think she should have killed King Skinhead Lamarck?
No.
Because?
He's unarmed, number one.
Right.
Number two, there's nothing that you can really do there other than arrest him at that point. I mean, if you would literally put a bullet down.
Get the money. Well, get out.
But you already have him at gunpoint, so that you just arrest him at that point. You can't shoot a person just to shoot him. And that was what she was struggling with. She was trying to remember her gun safety rules that she got yelled at back in season 1 for. So she's trying to remember those rules, and therefore that's why Red said she's not going to shoot you. She's just not going to do it. So absolutely, I think she made the right choice, but she should have still tried to arrest him, I think. But it is what it is.
She could have wounded him. I mean, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, he tried to escape. He's running. Boom.
But then you're in the Jack Bauer territory of I had to do it because it was the only thing I had.
Troy, that's why I said it.
But only Jack can do it. Liz can't do it. Jack can do it.
I'm just saying, like, as the season goes on, if she wants to lean a little bit more toward the Bauer route, I'm okay with it. I really am.
I mean, too.
Kiefer's on at like 8 or 9, so I can just flip the channel. It's the same show. It just like goes from woman to man. I would love it. It'd be great. No? All right. Well, what do you think about Putnam has this nice speech about nature versus nurture. I kind of mentioned it earlier, and it's in your DNA. That was right on the nose, I think. Pretty relevant. Do you agree? Obviously, you do believe there's some DNA there, so do you think that was speaking to Red as well?
Absolutely. And I thought what was interesting in that sequence was that it looked like he was in the front seat and she was driving, which makes Red in the back seat. And yet Red was never shot at all in the sequence of the conversation. It was just between the two of them. So I found that very odd that there wasn't even just like a shot of Red sleeping in the back seat or listening to the conversation or something.
There was a shot of Red.
Right at the very end, right? That was like very last shot in the sequence.
In the DNA, and then it flashes to Red. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, for me...
So what's your point? Because I lost your point.
Well, no, I think it was an interesting conversation to kind of hammer home this point of, there is this kind of thing you learn from your parents, and that kind of shapes who you are, and you're always going to be that. So I absolutely agree that it's a nature thing, because she hasn't had the nurture. The nurture was Sam. Sam was the nurture piece who taught her to be a grifter and how to do some small pickpocket stealing cars and things of that nature. But it's the nature part of it, of who she really is, as her makeup from her thinking, her processing, and things of that nature, just come from the DNA part of it. So it's a very interesting shove it in your face kind of moment, given the situation. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Okay, I was just kind of curious how you saw it. It was an interesting dynamic, I thought, and it really felt like Red is thinking, he's pondering. In that shot that they do show him in, he's very pondering. All right, well, Red. We finally at Red. Oh yeah, there's a character left. We know we're getting to him. We'll get there in a second. Well, get to that little stir of echoes scene. We begin with Red stealing a sweet ass ride with the old psyching out the valet trick. And he seems to be loving it. One thing I want to know, because of how the season started, and we found out it was actually true. I didn't know if it was going to be true throughout the episode. Were you surprised to see Red is actually broke? Because I was.
I prefer illiquid, but sure.
You know what I mean. Were you surprised that he actually is so broke? Because I was surprised that he was that broke.
I still think that there's cash out there somewhere. I think Red needs to figure out how to find that cash. Maybe that 200, whatever it was, 1,000 million, I forget the denomination, that he was going to use to buy the shipping company, probably million. I'm sure that 200 million is sitting somewhere. Kate set it aside, right? Kaplan set it aside in an account that he could find eventually if he decided to come clean to Liz. So maybe there's money out there. He just doesn't have access to it yet. So, but for this particular sequence of events for right now, I think it's fun to see how he may have actually been building this empire since 1990, 1994, depending on what dates you want to use in the sequence of the timeline. So I think it's fun. This is what he did for 20 years, evading the government. We get to see a little bit of that, and maybe that's how we start to get some of the answers of what happened when he was building his empire.
I love it because I was afraid all of the work that Kaplan did and all the damage she did last season was going to be a moot point. Because it seemed like he still had plenty of capital. Like he was still wearing nice clothes. He was still in nice. Which, by the way, did he sell his clothes? He could still have those nice suits, right? He doesn't have to buy, flamingo shirts or anything. I mean, the clothes are still around somewhere, I would imagine. Oh, well, I guess he's illiquid, so you gave it all to Goodwill. But I really thought he was going to come back, and he's still got a lot of money. And it's going to be one of those things where he has small operations, but it's enough to keep him
afloat.
Afloat. And instead, we got a guy living in a travel lodge. We got us.
I thought that was great.
Which is why I'm drinking red wine, because I'm officially richer than Red Reddington. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. It's a cool twist. I love the line, like Birgitta Olafsson in her parents' rumpus room on a Saturday night. I like that. That was fun. I really want to know the joke. A priest, a rabbi, and Pete Rose walk into a bar, and then what? Do you know how that goes? I want that joke. Can the writers give me that joke?
Yeah, can you tweet out the answer at least, writer's room, just so that we could share it at parties?
Line. Give me the punchline, and I'm going to fill in the rest of it. That's what I want to do. That would be fun. Well. Maybe later. Maybe we'll get a little piece of it, like for every 3 or 4 episodes. We'll get a little piece of that joke, and he never gets to finish it. It'll just be like an ongoing thing. All right, well, Red wanted Putnam and Hawkins for himself to reignite his empire. That was the whole game plan. Were you surprised by this?
Not entirely. The Hawkins thing was a little bit of a shock. I had a feeling Putnam was going to come around and be part of his group, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the Hawkins thing was an interesting one. To see how that was actually going to play out, because it seemed like Putnam and Hawkins were at odds with each other as they were describing the laundering operation. So it'd be interesting to see how they were going to work together if they came under Red's employ. So Putnam I had pegged. Hawkins was a surprise, and I loved how it paid off, because I think Liz was like shocked too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it all worked out. Everybody's happy, and he has a little empire going again. And Liz didn't seem too concerned about it.
No, not at all. Hey, Dembe, want a drink?
One last question about him. Was his dad like Clark Griswold? Is that why he loves a Wagoneer?
There could be other reasons why that Wagoneer is important.
Like what?
We'll just save those for the special agent intel.
I don't understand what you mean. Like someone has a theory?
Someone has a theory.
Ooh. Is it Clark Griswold? Because that's where my theory is.
Sorry,
my
folks.
theory is like he always wanted to go to Wally World when he was a kid, and he'll never go because they obviously shut that park down.
That's right.
But it also smells like peanut shells and gas, and that's just weird.
Better than Aunt Edna.
She fell off. Gosh, you've never seen Vacation. What is wrong with you? Okay, I don't care how evil he is. I want to say it one more time. Loved the dance at the end. Loved it. That big band version of Don't You Forget About Me was great. Of course, that song is just one of those. There's a handful of songs in the world that will make me go, ah, and that's one of them.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It was fun.
That was a beautiful moment. Yep, beautiful moment.
Father-daughter, comrades.
Yeah, and then, then we come to Tom. And Dembe's part of this because he's obviously in whatever, this lost moment. And also, he's looking for these bones that Tom's got. He still has them, still in that stinky suitcase. And that suitcase, I believe, holds the key to season 5, at least up until the mid-season point, I would probably guess. Any new guesses to the bones, or are you still holding strong with the previous season's guess?
Well, I think this season's shot of them, as Tom's looking at them, confirms that they are human, because it was very much a human skull inside of the case. So is it an animal? Is it something else? Is it a child? No, I definitely think that it was a human for sure.
I was never doubting that.
There were people that were questioning it.
They thought it was an animal, like he's going to be all worried about Liz finding his old cat bone?
Maybe, or the dog.
You killed a deer, you savage. No, I don't
it really
think
was Hudson the whole time.
Okay, that might work. Like, we finally found Hudson. He's in the suitcase. You sick bastard.
You killed Hudson.
So what's your theory? I don't remember where you stood on this. What are the bones?
No, I mean, for me, the theory was still that it was Katarina killed the original Red Reddington father, and it's Red Reddington's bones, and then Katarina takes over Red Reddington's persona for the mother theory to be true. Or it could be the other way around, which is Red Reddington is the father, and Katarina never really did go in the ocean. That's the lie that he gave to Liz, because criminals are notorious liars, and it's Katarina's bones because Reddington killed Katarina for leaving him behind in the fire to burn to death. So I think it's one or the other.
Why, whenever I give you a question, you give me every option that's available?
I'm just throwing them both out there.
I asked you what you think.
I told you, I'm still firm on the mother theory. I think the mother theory is still 100%.
100%.
99.5.
It's still pretty high, man. That's pretty confident.
It's less than Six Sigma, so.
You are pretty confident. I still think it's Katarina's bones. Now, one of us is going to be wrong and feel really stupid when this is all over.
I think both of us are going to be wrong.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's probably going to be, it's probably her sister.
Right.
Her sister. Because there was somebody else that night, remember?
There was.
So, it's her sister's bones, because it is a pretty small suitcase.
If you believe the memories of a 4-year-old.
I'm just saying, there's another kid there. Maybe that kid's dead. We don't know. Maybe there's another kid there. You never know. All right. So, Tom was going to tell her. Then he says he's her father.
No.
Or she says he's her father, and he wavers. What?
It's kind of like that. What do you call it? The sachet. I'm just going to slide this little thing I bought from Amazon underneath the table to pretend you didn't actually see it.
There's no way she doesn't recognize this dirty old suitcase hey, what's that? Nah, nothing. It looks like with a dead body. I opened it. It does not look like clothes. No, I just picked that up. It's for Halloween. It's going to be fine. It's fine.
I didn't get done telling you, but I had to run away from my mom and dad because they're freaking crazy. And this was the only suitcase at the Goodwill that I was able to get my clothes home in. What
would be a cool but savage twist would be that she finds it, and she's like, what are these bones doing here? And since it's October, we can have a Halloween-themed episode. TV still does that, right?
Sure.
And so he has to convince her that he got those bones for a Halloween decoration, and he actually has to hang the bones up on the wall. And then Red comes over, and that's why he maybe shoots Dom.
I just think you want a Halloween episode too badly.
I really, really do. Okay, so then we have this moment, okay? She says, he's my father, and he's like, oh, well, I was busy with redemption, so I didn't know that. That's good to know. Kicks that suitcase under the table a little bit. And then he has a flash forward, it seems like. And here's what what we presume is a flash forward. Here's what we saw. Same apartment. I verified it. Red and Dembe charging forward. Presumably, Agnes's doll on the floor. Well, we presume it because Agnes, we're not even convinced, is still in the apartment anymore. Right. But anyway, presumably Agnes's doll is on the floor and they're shooting. And then Tom, bloodied on the floor as Red, seemingly
over the top of him.
Right. Seemingly puts 2 bullets in him. But we never see him shot. We never see him dead. And then the last words Liz says, you better not leave. I'll kill you. What do you think?
Chills. Well, so here's where I stand. Regardless
can you first tell people what your original theory was?
So I'm sitting there going, as I'm watching this unfold, and saying, why is this here? This seems really odd and awkward and just completely random from the rest of the episode. So I don't know if I like the storytelling method specifically of these little flashes in this particular moment. I think it was a way to me, it almost, I hate to say it, but I feel it was like a cop-out. Like, hey, we kind of forgot about the hook in this episode, so how can we get the hook in there? Oh, we can do this flash scene, and it'll get the hook in there. To me, it felt like it was an afterthought. So I had a problem with the scene personally.
I couldn't disagree with that more strongly.
And so then...
All right, you finish your thought, and then I'm going to tell you how crazy I am.
So then my mind goes to, well, they never do anything without intention, right? So if we take a look at the scene, why would this scene be here? Why is it specifically tied to the suitcase? Why is it specifically tied to the bones? And I said, well, everything in the Blacklist is a lexical ambiguity. So we assume it's Agnes's doll, but maybe it's not Agnes's doll. Maybe it's a different doll. We assume it's the same apartment, but maybe it's a different apartment. So I thought potentially that maybe this was Red and Dembe coming in and killing an original Tom Keen, and the Tom Keen we're seeing now is a different Tom Keen, or an imposter Tom Keen, and the real Tom Keen's bones are what's in the suitcase. That's where my brain went, because that's the only reason why this flash forward, flash sideways, flash backward scene would be here, because if it's truly just I'm scared for my future, here's what's coming in the future, like, I don't want to see that. I don't want the here's the thing that we're going to show you 8 episodes later, and now here's how we're going to build to it 8 episodes later. I feel it's a cheap storytelling trick, in my opinion.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Alias, the show you quote all the time, did this all the time, where they would show a glimpse of a future event, and then you build the story up to that event. What's the difference? Why is this any different than that?
Because it's in the same episode. I see the glimpse, and then it's 48
not
hours
always.
earlier.
No, not always. Not always.
They haven't done this kind of thing in Alias. I'd have to go back and find an episode where this actually happened.
Go back and find it. I bet you'll find one.
Maybe. I don't know. To me, it seemed odd. It just seemed like it was out of left field for me from a Blacklist storytelling perspective.
I saw it. Okay, now I'll tell you how I saw it. I didn't see it as any of the things you said. I completely saw it as a flash forward. I never thought it was this. What did you think? I mean, everybody's an imposter, but your brain automatically goes to the most ridiculous or the furthest leap from logic. Because Troy, you never want to just take things at face value, man.
Well, I'm trying to because I'm already like I'm thrown off by this flashing sequence in the first place. So I'm trying to in my brain try to reconcile why would they do this. And why is it immediately tied after he hides the suitcase? And why is it immediately after they have a conversation about the bones does this happen? And I'm like, oh, because it's not really Tom that she's talking to. It's a different Tom.
That's where your brain naturally goes to.
It totally does.
So the first place isn't logic. There's this intricate plot where he kills Tom and apparently got the bones to Kaplan. Kaplan mailed the bones to the fake Tom to bring home. Yeah, that's your logic?
Have you seen my ears? They're not pointy.
Doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, anyway. So I saw it completely as a flash forward. It's a flash forward at what's to come. And, lots of TV shows have used this trope. And some use it in the same episode. Some use it where it's like a few episodes down the road. Some use it's at the end of the season. I've seen it done several times where you see the end of the season and then you have to figure out how did we get there. Breaking Bad did it several times. So
like an older zombie fighter, potentially.
What? I don't get that one.
Well, I wasn't trying to be quite obvious about the answer. You could put two and two together.
Okay. Well, I still didn't get it. All right. So what I think is the hook they never forgot about. They wanted to get the season off running, and they wanted to give you a fun episode. They wanted to set things up. They want to show you where the characters are and say, hey, we didn't forget about this thing. We're going to show you this thing at the end. But we have to set up where this relationship is now. Tom getting back there. And then you get this glimpse of what's to come. Now, we don't know when it's going to come. Could be later this season or this section, the mid-season or whatever, the fall season. Or it could be the end of the... I think it'll be resolved by the end of fall. I really do. Because I don't think they're going to want to drag it out much longer than that.
Could be sooner based on some conversations from John on the EW article after the episode.
Yeah, could be. I mean, there are options to when it gets resolved. But it does look like Tom is in peril. And it's it
definitely looks like Red and Tom are there together. It's just how you interpret what happens.
Well, I'm taking it at face value. You can put in spaceships if you want. The doll makes sense that it would be Agnes's because it is their apartment. I checked. Same lamp, same paint, same door. It's all the same. It's the same apartment. So I would assume it would be Agnes's doll, which indicates maybe Agnes is there at the time. Yeah, that is going off logic based on what is actually there, not maybe there's a face-making machine. There's a face-off machine. Nicolas Cage is running it in the back room, and he's like, here, Tom, catch. And he throws this on. So I think Tom is in deep peril because he finds out exactly who those bones are. And he's debating, I would guess, with how to... Does he want to tell Liz? Is it more dangerous to tell Liz? I don't think he's going to tell Red. I think he knows Red is awful. But I do think they're going to find out where those bones went and that they went to Tom. Now, I'm not convinced that Red's actually going to kill him, though. Not even a little bit. Until we see a dead body, he's not dead.
Yeah, I think Red's there potentially trying to save him from whatever else is there because of what he uncovers because of the bones.
Could be. And it could be that that's not him that he's shooting. It's all in how it's cut. So it could be that there's somebody, he gets in just to set up my theory, he gets in a fight with someone else. It's a bloody fight. Red and Dembe break in to save Tom and Liz and Agnes because the doll's there. That's the hint that Agnes is still there. And kills somebody that he was fighting with. And maybe he's laying on the floor next to him. We don't know that he's actually shooting Tom. It's all in what you see. So you have to take it at what you see, not what you think you see. And not at the face-off machine angle.
There's precedent for it, I'm just saying.
But I loved it. I thought it was great because we didn't have to have anything really dire. We just got like a glimpse of, oh, what is that? And it's given us something to talk about without giving us a ton. And I like that. I thought it was fun.
I just thought it was strange. I didn't say I don't like it. I just thought it was strange. It was different for the Blacklist.
No, you actually did say you didn't like it. You did.
I'm still debating. It was only on like an hour ago.
All right. I watched it twice already. Yeah, I'm on, man. I'm on it. And I really dug it. I really like that. I thought it was kind of cool because I haven't seen it on Blacklist outside of what you're talking about, like 36 hours earlier. You know, whether you play with it several episodes. I think that's really interesting. And it gets the season going. It gets me interested. I want to know how Tom got to that point. And every episode we'll get a little bit closer to that mystery.
I suppose, yeah, they did do it on Alias once because you see her with the red hair running from the ball, et cetera, and then it plays out for the whole arc. Yes, but it wasn't like in a flash stream sequence. It was the whole scene practically.
There's no difference. It's just a matter of where it was placed. It's the same thing. It was done in Alias. It's been done in a lot of great shows. Blacklist is also a great show. I think this is going to work out great.
It was just where it was placed, specifically at the end of this episode, first episode, right after you talk about the bones. It just seemed like it was supposed to mean more than it did, like a lot more than it did.
No, I think you want it to mean because you automatically want like aliens involved or something or robots.
No aliens and robots in this one.
Looks like nothing to me or whatever. All right. Well, I think that's covering this episode pretty well, man. We got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to talk about our recent California, or you want to do Red's rhetoric and then talk about that?
We'll do it right at the end. We'll do it at the end.
Okay, got it.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, we'll typically take a break at this point of the show, and then we'll come back and share some Red stories. We'll share stories from you and some news and upcoming events. So hang tight. We'll be back with Red's rhetoric right after this.
Join the Scarlet Cougar and X-Force 11 as they shine the bat signal on the Fox TV show Gotham. Karen and Jeff discuss the story and characters, break down the Batman universe, and share their knowledge of the mythos every week on Gotham Undercover.
We love to get our community involved as our undercover agents. Please find us by going to the following places.
You can search for Gotham Undercover on Facebook, tweet us at GothamGSM on Twitter, find us at goldenspiralmedia.com, and email us at gotham@goldenspiralmedia.com.
Don't forget, you can listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love to get you to rate and review the show.
And now we'll turn you back to your regularly scheduled GSM podcast. But we'll see you on Gotham Undercover. Same bad time, same bad podcast.
Hi, it's Megan Boone, and you're listening to Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Welcome to Red's Rhetoric, that part of the show where we play two scenes from this week's episode of The Blacklist, and then you get to vote which one is your favorite over at theblacklistexposed.com. Just look for the post for Smokey Putnam. Our first clip this week comes when Red chats with Liz poolside.
Reddington?
Elizabeth, you just missed the Ludeman family. I must have thrown quarters for that little girl to fetch for over 2 hours. Soda pop?
You're living here.
I make my bed where I lay my head.
At the Terrace Vista Motor Lodge?
I gotta tell you, I'm thinking about making it permanent. Dariush, the owner, and I are somewhat the same size, which has been a godsend. I think you quite like it here. They host a social hour at sunset, music and cocktails. It's a lovely crowd, really. Eclectic, to say the least.
I thought you'd be a little bit more proactive, trying to find ways to rebuild all your way back to the top. Where's Dembag?
Dip your toes in. I swear Dariush keeps the pool at body temperature. You can't even feel the water.
I'm glad you're having a nice time. But Cooper actually sent me to see if you might have a case.
Oh, I didn't realize you were here on official business.
Well, you are my father, and... oh, my God, that sentence. And all that it means. But, to be honest, knowing who my father is at this point isn't going to change who I am, or the fact that you're my CI, and I need a case.
then I suppose I'll need my pants.
Our second clip comes when Red has a chat with Cooper.
Hello, Harold.
You're a bounty hunter now?
Have you ever had deep-fried butter?
Bringing a fugitive carnival manager back to stand trial for embezzlement.
Clogs more arteries than a car accident during rush hour, and yet people out here can't get enough of it.
Keene told you we're under review. We have a new director. I need Blacklist.
And you'll have one soon, after we do a little rebuilding.
You expect the FBI to help you rebuild a criminal empire.
Perhaps you're the one in need of some clarification. The Blacklist has value because it is based on the best possible intelligence. Information that was not available yesterday and will be obsolete tomorrow. The criminal underworld is not static, Harold. It consists of constantly shifting alliances and leadership, which can only be discerned by a few key players. I was one of those players, and with your help, I intend to be one again. Because like deep-fried butter, I am unhealthy, and yet irresistible.
Which was your favorite? If you like to dip your toes into a little adventure, vote #RedPool. Or if you enjoy some clarification on deep-fried things, vote #RedButter.
All right, let's move on to Special Agent Intel. George Nauman, he is going long out of the gate. So we will need the internet detectives to weigh in on this. When Red and Liz were in the Wagoneer, what did he say? It sounded like he said it reminded him of the smell of Dad's Wagoneer. We're not sure I heard it right. And if that is what he said, why do I think Dom drives a Wagoneer?
Yeah, and I didn't have time to go back and look before we recorded, but I would be curious to find out if he does drive a Wagoneer. That would be interesting.
You should probably go look.
Well, I just finished Kate May the other night, so guess what? That's the next episode, so maybe I'll do that before I go to bed.
Fine. There's, Dom's been in 2 episodes, right?
Yep, 2 episodes.
2? Go see. I know there's one where he's in a garage, so maybe there's a car in there.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Could be.
We'll find out for the next week, right? You'll have that answer for next week?
We'll report back.
Breaking news. All right. Neil Ottenstein said, so it looked like Tom was going to tell Liz about the suitcase until she told him that Reddington was her father.
Oh,
yep.
Man. Dang
Why
it.
would you do that? Here's my rule, okay? And TV has taught me this rule. If you ever walk into a room and see your significant other, and they say, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And then you say, I've got something to tell you too. And then they're like, oh, what do you want to tell me? And you say, no, what do you want to say? And then they say something like, no, you first. Always let the person go first. Always let them go first because they have the pertinent information that'll probably save or ruin your life.
And then you could just go, I love you. And you get out of it completely.
Absolutely. I love it.
Paula Courtney was on Twitter with the Q&A with Megan before the show, and she had asked Megan who was the better dancer, her or James. And Megan replied saying that James actually worked with a choreographer for the dance scene, and she just followed along. So he got this round, but there's always the next dance.
Aw. That's really
cute.
sweet. Yeah, that's really sweet. By the way, can I just say how much I love both of them getting to lighten up a little bit?
Oh,
One
yeah.
more time.
So much fun this episode.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Tony on Twitter said, a dream, a vision of the future. Good thing Aram got that booty call before all hell breaks loose. Wow. All right, then.
Hey, they were just making on an elevator. We don't know if they actually were, hanging out at each other's house the night before. We assume they were, but...
And why do you say it like that? Maybe Samara got the booty call, pal. Huh? How about that? That's the way I'm looking at it.
That's true. They could have done it in the elevator, too, for all we know.
Because I'm telling you what, if you look at that relationship, I know who's boss, and it ain't Aram.
That's very true. Very true. Also, quick thanks to Spy Keen Watson on Twitter, who picked up the latest album of music from Dave Porter featuring that score from the TV show. And again, if you missed it, we talked to Dave Porter last week on episode 90. Be sure to check out that interview. Really, really cool. We also had some interviews over the summer, one of them specifically from Anthony Pepe, who's the head of the makeup department on the Blacklist. You should really go back in the archives and check that out as well. Lots of fun we had this summer talking to people that aren't necessarily the cast or the writers on the Blacklist.
Yeah, that was actually really, really fun. Dave Porter, like I said in the interview, he composed one of my favorite themes, which is Breaking Bad. And Breaking Bad's a very simplistic theme, very simple, but it's still in my head years after that show ended. He's very talented, and he's got Disaster Artist coming out this fall too, so I'm looking forward to that. And Anthony Pepe, one of my favorite interviews, honestly, and I've done a lot of them. Go Hollywood Outsider, I've done a ton with directors and whatnot. he's one of my favorites just because he's a really engaging guy and really insightful into the whole process of special makeup effects and how it all works. And it's really cool to have that kind of artistry conversation.
He gave some really good season 4 specific examples, so you can see the pictures too we have up on the post on the website for that episode.
He did. Now, that pretty much did it for the Blacklist specific. So now we're going to talk about us. So if you don't care about us, then just come back next week when we'll talk about next week's show. You can follow us on Twitter at the Blacklist GSM, where we live tweet during the East Coast feed, starting again next week, and we'll use the show's hashtag, the Blacklist.
Yeah, apologies for not tweeting along with you this week, but we were watching, so we could get this out for you right away.
I got out a few tweets.
Sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was busy taking notes.
I know. You just bought a house. Congratulations, Troy. He bought a house, bigger house for his family.
No, another house would be right because I still haven't sold my other one. So if you're looking to move to Chicago and need a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath townhome, just let me know. Feedback at goldenspiralmedia.com.
Welcome to realty.com. All right, now we're going to talk about our trip to California. Now, why don't you know what? I'll explain you explain, Troy. Why did we even go to California?
So we are obviously podcasters, and every year there is shocker, I know.
Yeah, shocker.
There is a conference that podcasters go to called the Podcast Movement, and it just happened to be in Anaheim, California this year, which is very near to the place where the writer's room is located in Hollywood. So we called them up and said, hey, can we stop by, have a chat, see what's going on for season 5? They obliged, and we had a very nice conversation, about 2 hours or so, with a bunch of the writers. Thanks again to everybody in the room for the hospitality and for hanging out with us that day.
We should elaborate on that before you move on.
We should. I'm going to let you speak to that because I know you have a lot to say. This was like a dream for you as a movie person.
People that don't, and like I said, if you don't care about this stuff, you don't have to listen to this. We're just filling you in on some cool stuff that happened in the off season, and one really cool thing that's coming up in a second. But as a kid, I always wanted to be a writer. It was my dream to be in movies, to work in movies. Life kind of took me on a different path because I had kids younger than most people should ever have kids. It's great now, sucked then. But so I was more invested in being a father than I could be in pursuing the dream, so to speak. So I wasn't able to do it, but it's always been a lifelong dream. And I really love and respect people that are able to do it, that people that are able to pursue that and either go to college for it or pursue just the art of it. And there's something, that's why I always gravitate toward the behind the scenes. You know, a lot of people gravitate toward the celebrity, the James Spader, Megan Boone, those sort of things. And I get that, totally get it. They're in front of the camera and they do a great job. But I naturally gravitate toward artists and writers. And actually, Ryan Eggold just wrote and directed a movie, by the way. I'm literally right before Aaron, I think is what the name of it. That's coming out next year. I just want to mention that while I'm thinking about it. So everybody look for that movie because Ryan Eggold, Tom, wrote and directed a movie. He's not starring in it, but he wrote and directed it. So
and edited it too, I believe.
Yeah. So now we got to get him on both as a writer and an actor.
Yeah.
Somebody worked that out because that really got me excited. He's got a really cool cast too. Anyway, so as someone that aspired to do that and as someone who is a lifelong movie and television fan, I've always wanted to see what is a writer's room like. And you see, you've heard writers talk about it and you've seen stuff in other shows and documentaries and stuff, but it's a different thing to actually be invited and actually partake in it and see what they do. And it is very much a very natural environment. It's just like any other building, and they have a room, and then they have offices, and you walk in, and it's very simple. And they have boards, just like you would expect, where they're breaking down everything. Now, they erased everything, so we couldn't spoil anything, even though we never would in a million years. But I totally understand they're protecting their project. But they took all that down. But they do have like boards where they keep track of everything. And they also have another fun board where they have little random bits of quips and trivia and things that come up in their own minds, but that's their own private thing. We don't want to talk about that. But they break down all the stories and all the episodes, and they hatch them out. You know, one person might have an idea, and then they kind of work through them to create an entire story. Then there's obviously specific character arcs that have to go on. They start breaking the season down pretty early, and they get it all worked out. And these are the guys that put this all together. And it was great to sit there and talk to them for a couple hours about how the process works. Some stories about how some of the work that they have done came to fruition. They really couldn't talk about this season, which we totally understood. But we got a lot of information from them on how they have put together the show that they have. And it's very impressive. They're all avid fans. They are all very invested in giving you the best show that you can have. And it was a great time. It was a great visit at the Paramount lot, and it was just a great time. And these are great guys to hang out with.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that, Chief?
No. I just think it was great just to be able to know, the people behind when you're tweeting on Thursday nights and you hear from at the Blacklist room, like who are the people that are manning the Twitter, that particular week. Sometimes it's the person that wrote the episode. Sometimes it's someone who had the idea for the episode but don't actually have the writing credit for the episode. So it's just fun to know like who the people are behind that Twitter account and how crazy their minds are. And in some regards, and why they come up with some of the tweets they come up with, because it's actually pretty interesting when you actually get to know them as actual people.
Oh, it's great to hear the voice behind some of the writing, because once you're talking to them, I can see certain voices come out in the stories, like in the shows that we've seen, the episodes we've seen. I can see a few of their voices come through because I've talked to them now. Agreed. Which is interesting to me. It's very, very interesting. So it was like a dream come true. So for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I got to pretend like I was part of the Hollywood scene. That was very cool.
Was.
And I've been doing the Hollywood Outsider for many, many years, and I've talked to many, many directors, and I've gone to many, many festivals and all that stuff. But this was a first time experience for me, and honestly, kind of like a dream come true. And I know a lot of people have much more lavish dreams than I do. That was one of mine. So it was a really great experience. So thanks to John and those guys for putting that together. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. Then day 2 of our California trip took us back to the conference, where the evening is the kind of big grand opening. And that's because it is the Academy of Podcasters Awards ceremony, where they basically have about 15 to 20 categories of podcast, arts, entertainment, food, games and hobbies, news, politics, etc. And, of course, TV and film is one of those categories. Well, this year, for some strange reason, they decided that our little podcast here, The Blacklist Exposed, was one of the best podcasts of 2017, and we received a nomination. And the way that breaks down is they have the 5 top shows in the Apple Podcasts ecosystem, and then they hand-pick 5 others. Well, we were one of the hand-picked ones, so we were super excited to get the nomination, because that means our peers appreciated the work and effort that we put in each week for all of you. And then we actually go to the ceremony, and it was really an interesting experience because, one, there was drinks and stuff ahead of time, so I kind of needed to go to the bathroom.
I really had to go to the bathroom. I mean, that's what I told Troy when our category came up. I can't wait. So I can go to the bathroom. So these people are done with their speech, so I can go to the bathroom.
So the first thing you do is look through the program, and you go, okay, TV and film, we're going to be like last, so I got time to go to the bathroom. First category comes up, it's not arts. And we're like, crap, they're not going to go in order. So now we got to go to the bathroom, and we have no idea when we can go because we don't know when our category is going to be called. And then they started doing video acceptance speeches. So then we're like, oh, well, if you did a video acceptance speech, that means you were notified ahead of time. We weren't notified, so I guess we didn't win. And it was kind of a bummer moment at that moment. But we were like, oh, we'll just go ahead and we'll still see our category. We'll take a picture of our name on the screen, and it's all going to be good.
I just want to point out, it wasn't a bummer moment because I completely had already expected to lose completely.
Yeah, I mean, we're up against 8. 8 out of the 10 nominees are in the top 200 in iTunes, and we are not one of those 8. So
we do well, pal.
We do well.
Like, don't sell us short.
But we're not in the top. We're not in the top 200 of TV and film specifically.
Right.
So
there's thousands of TV and film. But we're still pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. It feels like billions these days.
Especially for Game of Thrones or Walking Dead or one of those other
There's like 83 Game of Thrones podcasts now or something like that. Like, at what point are you know what? I'm good. I don't need more Game of Thrones info. I'm good. Dragons.
So TV and film comes up, and this is like the Oscar speech. Everybody dreams of giving their Oscar speech. And Aaron is in the car on the way over. He's like, hey, Troy, remember, I get to talk too. So I am the whole time thinking like, okay, I have to remember to let Aaron talk. I wrote down my speech and my joke and the whole thing on my phone, and I handed my phone to our friend to film us in case we actually won. And not expecting to win, they actually called our name and we won. Like, hey.
I admire your optimism, by the way, because mine wasn't there.
And so we win, and my phone is now in my friend's hand, and we get up on stage, and I'm like, crap, my speech is on my phone, and my joke is on my phone, and okay, what are we going to do? So I said a couple things and literally yielded it to Aaron, because I'm like, I didn't have anything to say at that moment, because I didn't have my speech. And then Aaron, being a podcaster who talks for a living, gets up there and was like, thanks, and I just don't have anything else to say.
Oh, I said shout out to all the spouses.
You had the spouse joke, yeah. You could see the actual acceptance speech in the Facebook group. We posted it up there. But yeah, it was a surreal moment to be selected out of 10 really, 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 really great TV and film podcasts to be the winner for 2017. So just an epic moment, epic 2 days in California, and then be able to kick off season 5 with all the View and interview Dave Porter and some really exciting stuff down the pipeline here for the season. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, really quick aside, I wasn't going to go. I knew we were a finalist in this, and Troy, reached out. He said, "Hey, we're finalists. You're going to go?" I'm like, I can't really do it this year. I've already done a couple festivals, and time just wasn't allowing it. So I wasn't going to go because there's no chance we're going to win, Troy. We're an independent. We're primarily an independent. And there's a lot of money behind a lot of the names that were nominated. So we're like, we're not gonna win. So I'm not gonna spend the time and effort and money to go out there and do that. And then the writer's room opportunity. Troy's like, well, I can get you in the writer's room. It turns out we can go to the writer's room if you want to go. Well, now you're speaking my language. So that's the only reason I went to begin with, is just for that part of the experience. Because like I said earlier, lifelong dream. So as I always have, if anyone's ever wanted to work in the entertainment business to any degree, at some point you have practiced an Oscar speech, you have gotten in front of the mirror and you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this, I'm going to thank all these people. And I have done that probably like 50 times. I'm not going to deny it. I've done it like 50 times in my life. And I had it all in my head. Like, if I ever win, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched the Oscars and be like, that idiot got up there and won and said thank you and walked away. Like, you don't have a speech. I mean, how can you have that moment and not have something ready? Like, really? Found out how exactly. You can be completely taken by surprise and get up there. And I mean, I think I came across not as idiotic as I felt, but I did forget pretty much everything that I wanted to say. I didn't thank my mom, and that's literally the only thing that I wanted. I told Troy, I'm like, the only person I have to thank is my mom. That's it. And
that's the only person.
And your spouse.
That's a given, but in terms of TV, film, my mom is the greatest proponent and the biggest
supporter.
The biggest supporter, and the cheerleader, the person who, tried to get me to write. She wanted me to be a writer for most of my life because she was very genuine about my writing, very supportive and encouraging. And movies. And I wouldn't like movies and TV if it wasn't for her. We did that together. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even be here talking to you guys if it wasn't for her. So that was the one person and I forgot her. I was not like I forgot her. I just was speechless. Befuddled is a good word. I felt so idiotic by the time we were done, but it was a great honor. I mean, it's a big award, and podcasting, it's the biggest award there is. So it was pretty exciting. It was really, really exciting. And I'm very proud of the work we've done. And, both Troy and I have done. I'm proud of the community. I'm thankful to NBC and Sony for supporting us, and thankful to my mom for making sure that I could get that award. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have one.
That's right. That's it.
But I messed it all up.
But it's all because you guys listen on a weekly basis. So we want to remind you, absolutely, especially this season, don't forget to follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and join the Facebook group. We can't stress the Facebook group enough. So many good theories, so many good conversations. Facebook.com/group/The Blacklist GSM, or just find the link on theblacklistexposed.com. But come join the Facebook group. Lots of great people in there.
Yeah. I'm still mad I didn't thank my mom. All right. Well, you can always subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, your favorite podcast app of choice. You can even listen on the website. But if you're really on the go like Red Reddington, make sure you download our app for iOS and Android, powered by Spreaker. You will also find all the intel and analysis about this episode for Smokey Putnam by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. How did Tom get in that position?
Yeah, be interested to hear your thoughts. And we'll feature him at the top of the show next week.
All right. And remember, if you ever get a chance to win an award, make sure you got your speech ready.
On paper.
Yes. Carry it with you. Don't put it on your phone. Write it down. Paper's okay, kids.
All right. We'll be on the Friday release schedule going forward next week. We'll see you then.
Take care.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.